I've been babysitting since I was 16. I've done overnights, last-minute calls, you name it. But there's one job I took last year that still keeps me up some nights. It wasn't supernatural. There was no ghost or monster. But it was worse, because it was real. It started with a Facebook message from a family I hadn't met before. They'd gotten my name through a local parenting group. The mum, Cara, said she needed someone to watch her 6-year-old son, Lucas, for the evening. Just a few hours, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., while she and her husband went out to dinner in the city. They lived in a nice suburban area I was familiar with, about 20 minutes from me. When I got there, the place looked perfect. White shutters, a clean yard, a cheerful-looking golden retriever wagging its tail on the porch. Cara greeted me warmly, introduced me to her husband Mark, and then Lucas. He was shy but polite, quiet kid. They left around 5:15 p.m. after giving me the rundown. Dinner in the fridge, bedtime at 8 p.m. Don't let him have more than one juice box, the usual stuff. The night started off completely normal. Lucas and I ate spaghetti and watched a movie. He was quiet the whole time, but seemed fine. After the movie, we played with his Legos, and he opened up a little. At one point, he asked if I believed in ghosts. I laughed and said no, not really. Then he looked at me and said, "What about the man in the hallway?" I paused. What man? He didn't answer. Just looked down and went back to building his little Lego spaceship. I brushed it off as something he'd seen on TV, or maybe just his imagination. 8 p.m. came, and I tucked him into bed. He didn't say anything, just pulled the covers up to his chin and watched me with wide eyes until I turned off the light. I went back downstairs and sat on the couch with my phone. Around 8:45 p.m., I heard something. A soft thump upstairs. I figured Lucas had gotten up to use the bathroom. I waited to hear the toilet flush or footsteps. Nothing. 5 minutes passed. Then I heard it again. Thump. Thump. Like someone walking slowly. I stood and called up, "Lucas?" No response. I climbed the stairs, feeling that strange tightening in my stomach. The hallway was dark. His bedroom door was closed. I knocked gently. "Lucas? Everything okay?" Still nothing. I opened the door slowly. He was in bed, eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. I could tell. His breathing was uneven, but I didn't press him on it. I just whispered, "Let me know if you need anything," and quietly closed the door. That's when I saw it. Down the hallway, just past the bathroom. A figure. Just a flash. Like someone stepping out of view. I froze. My whole body tensed. It wasn't Lucas. It was too tall. I remember thinking it was an adult. A man. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the shadows played tricks. I stood still for what felt like minutes. Eventually, I forced myself to walk down the hallway. Bathroom, empty. Guest room, empty. Master bedroom, empty. Closets, nothing. I even opened the linen closet, nothing but towels. I went back downstairs, trying not to freak out. I locked the front door, even though I was pretty sure it already was. I texted my boyfriend, told him I was feeling creeped out. He offered to come sit with me, but I didn't want to make it a big deal. Around 10:30, I heard another noise, like something fell over. Upstairs again. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed up. Lucas's bedroom door was open. He was sitting up in bed, pale, eyes wide. When he saw me, he whispered, "He was in my room." I asked, "Who?" "The man from the hallway." I flipped the lights on, searched the whole house again, every room, every closet, nothing. The doors were all locked, windows too. Cara and Mark came home just after 11. I didn't tell them what happened. I didn't want to sound crazy. Lucas said nothing either. But just as I was leaving, he ran up to me, hugged me tight, and whispered, "Thank you for not letting him take me." My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything, just got in my car and drove home, heart pounding the whole way. The next morning, I couldn't let it go. I needed to know more. I did some digging, looked up the address, and I found something. 7 years ago, the house had belonged to another family, a man, his wife, and their young son. One night, the man had a psychotic break, killed his wife and kid, then himself, right there, in the house. The hallway, that's where the police found him, standing with a knife when they arrived, before he turned it on himself. I've never taken a job in that neighborhood again, and I never will. I've been babysitting for years. Some gigs are great, free snacks, sleeping kids, quiet evenings. Others, they leave a mark. This one, I've never talked about it before, but maybe it's time. It was fall, about 4 years ago. I was 19 and had just started college in a nearby town. I needed extra money, and I found a babysitting listing posted in our student group. A woman was looking for someone to watch her 6-year-old daughter on Friday nights. Nothing crazy, just from 6 p.m. to midnight, while she worked the late shift at a small family-owned cafe in town. The house was in one of those older neighborhoods, quiet, lots of trees, kind of isolated. The kind of place where the streetlights barely work and the driveways are long and cracked. But the pay was good, and the kid, Ella, was sweet and low maintenance. I met the mum, Jen, for a quick interview. She was polite, but tired. She explained Ella's routine: dinner by 7, bedtime by 8, and then I could chill on the couch. Nothing out of the ordinary. Before I left, Jen said something strange. "Oh, and if you hear scratching at the back door, just ignore it. It's probably the neighbor's dog again. Don't open the door." I nodded, kind of confused. "Okay, you don't have pets." She shook her head. "Number Ella's allergic. It's just the neighbor's big dumb dog. He gets loose sometimes." I didn't think much of it. Dogs wander. Weird instructions come with the territory. The first few nights were uneventful. Ella was adorable. She loved drawing and telling long, winding stories that didn't go anywhere. I'd tuck her in, clean up dinner, and binge shows on my laptop. Easy money. But one night, about 3 weeks in, things shifted. It was around 10 p.m. I was halfway through a rewatch of Stranger Things, lying on the couch in their dimly lit living room, when I heard it. A slow, dragging scratch at the back door. I froze. Not a bark, not whining, just scratching. It was subtle at first, like something lightly testing the wood. Then a pause, then a louder thump, like something heavy shifting its weight. I remembered Jen's words and sat still, forcing myself not to look toward the kitchen where the back door was. But the scratching continued. It grew rhythmic, persistent. Then it stopped. I exhaled and turned the volume back up, thinking maybe it really was just a dog. Not even a minute later, I heard something even worse. Whispers. From outside. I paused the show. Mute silence. Then, "Hello?" I sat up. The whisper was soft, strained, like someone pressing their lips against the glass of the back door, trying not to be heard. I moved toward the kitchen cautiously, barefoot on the wooden floor. I stayed just far enough away not to be seen from outside. I don't know why I looked. I shouldn't have. I leaned just enough to glimpse the back door. There was no dog, but there was a smudge, like someone's palm had pressed against the glass. Low, almost like a crouching person, and below it, deep scratch marks in the wood of the door. Not fresh, not old either. I turned off the lights and backed into the living room. I called Jen immediately. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail, trying to sound calm. "Hey, I think the neighbor's dog is back, but I'm not sure. Just wanted to let you know." I stayed up on the couch that night with the lights off and my shoes on. Nothing else happened until the next Friday. That night, Jen told me she'd be back by 11 instead of midnight. She was cutting her shift short. Around 8:30, Ella was asleep upstairs. I was heating some leftovers in the kitchen when I heard a knock at the front door. Not the back, the front. I checked the peephole. No one. I flicked on the porch light. Still no one. Then, another knock. Behind me. From the back door. I whipped around. The kitchen window overlooked the backyard, and in the glow of the porch light, I saw a figure dart along the fence line. Low to the ground. Fast. Again, no barking, no growling, just the faint sound of scraping, this time from outside the kitchen window. I backed away. Then, I heard the front door unlock. That sound is unmistakable. That loud click of the deadbolt turning. I hadn't locked it after checking the knock. I raced to the front door and slammed the deadbolt back in place. That's when I remembered something that made my stomach drop. Jen never gave me a key, and there was no spare hidden outside. I'd asked her once, and she laughed, saying she was too paranoid to ever leave a key lying around. So how did it unlock? I called 911. While the dispatcher stayed on the line, I turned off all the lights, locked every door and window, and sat in the hallway with a knife from the kitchen until the cops arrived. They checked the house, the backyard, the whole street. Nothing. But one of the officers asked something that still gives me chills. "Does the family own a dog?" "No," I said. "Why?" He showed me a set of long, deep claw marks on the back fence. Way too high for a regular dog. More like a bear. But there were no bears in that part of the state. Not even close. When Jen got home, she looked pale. She didn't act surprised. She just thanked the officers, told me she was sorry, and said she'd look into getting more lights installed. I never went back. A few months later, I saw Jen's listing reappear. Different wording, but same shift, same kid. A friend of mine applied. She never lasted past the second night. I used to babysit a lot in high school. It was decent money for a 16-year-old, and most of the families in our neighborhood were friendly, normal people. But there was one job, just one, that still keeps me up at night. It was the fall of my junior year. A woman named Mrs. Chandler called my mum after finding her number through a local church bulletin. She was looking for a babysitter on short notice, just for one Saturday night. My mum passed along the message, and I called her back. Mrs. Chandler sounded nice enough over the phone. A little old-fashioned, maybe. She said she and her husband had an anniversary dinner to attend and needed someone to watch their 5-year-old son, Noah, from about 6 p.m. until midnight. The pay was more than fair, and I didn't have any plans, so I agreed. She gave me the address, Ivy Hill Road. I'd never heard of it before, even though I'd lived in our town my whole life. Turns out it was one of those semi-rural stretches up in the hills, only a 20-minute drive from where I lived, but still pretty isolated. I remember the drive up there felt different. The houses became fewer and farther apart, the woods thicker. My GPS kept glitching, but I eventually found the long gravel driveway, mostly hidden behind some trees. The Chandler house was large, older, but well kept. Think colonial style. White siding, black shutters, 2 stories, and a wraparound porch. I knocked, and Mrs. Chandler answered with a warm smile. She looked elegant, in a dark green dress, hair pinned up, pearls around her neck. Her husband stood behind her, tall, quiet, kind of stern-looking. Then there was Noah. He peeked out from behind his mother's skirt, pale skin, dark hair, big green eyes. He didn't say much, just clutched a stuffed rabbit and stared. Mrs. Chandler gave me a quick tour. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, Noah's room upstairs, and the guest room where I could wait or do homework after he went to sleep. "We should be back by midnight," she said. "He's usually in bed by 8:30. They left around 6:15. Noah was quiet but cooperative. We played with blocks, watched a cartoon, and I gave him dinner. Around 8, I took him upstairs, read him a story, and tucked him in. He clutched his rabbit the whole time. That's when he said something strange. As I pulled the blanket over him, he whispered, "Don't open the door if she knocks." I paused. "Who?" He just shook his head. "The lady from the closet. She gets mad if you open it." I tried to laugh it off, assuming he was talking about a bad dream or an imaginary friend. I said something like, "You're safe, buddy." No one's in the closet. I even opened it to show him. Just clothes, toys, nothing weird. Still, he seemed scared. I reassured him and stayed in the room until he fell asleep. After that, I went downstairs to the guest room with my laptop. Everything was fine for about an hour. Then, around 9:45, I heard something. Knocking. 3 soft knocks. Coming from upstairs. I froze. At first, I thought maybe Noah had gotten up and was knocking on the wall or something, but it didn't sound like that. It was too deliberate. 3 slow knocks, then silence. I crept to the base of the stairs and listened. Nothing. After a minute, I went back to the guest room, thinking maybe I imagined it. 10 minutes later, 3 more knocks, this time louder. I went upstairs. The hallway was dim, just one small lamp near the stairwell. Noah's door was closed. I walked to it and gently opened it. He was asleep, still clutching that rabbit, breathing softly. Then I noticed his closet door was open. I was sure I'd closed it earlier. I walked over, heart thudding. I told myself it could have swung open. Old house. Drafts. Something rational. I closed it again, firmly, and stepped back. That's when I heard it. A soft, shuffling noise. From inside the closet. I stood there for what felt like a full minute, listening. The house was silent except for Noah's breathing, and that faint, irregular shuffling sound. I grabbed the doorknob and yanked it open. Nothing. Just the same toys and clothes. Noah stirred in bed, but didn't wake. I was officially creeped out. I went back downstairs and turned on the TV just to drown out the quiet. At 11:15, I heard something that made my blood run cold. A woman's voice from upstairs, whispering, "Noah." It was faint, almost like it came through a wall, but it was clear enough to know what it said. I bolted up the stairs, heart pounding. Noah was still asleep. But now, the closet was open again. This time, the rabbit was on the floor, a few feet from the bed. I picked it up and gently shook Noah awake. "Hey, buddy. Did you hear someone say your name?" He blinked. "She's trying to come out." he whispered. She wants to take me where the other kids are. What other kids? He didn't answer, just stared at the closet. I decided, screw this. I called Mrs. Chandler. She didn't answer, but I left a voicemail. Then I called my mom, told her something wasn't right, and she told me to leave immediately and bring Noah with me. I went to pack up his things, but when I turned around, the closet door slammed shut on its own. I nearly screamed. I grabbed Noah and rushed downstairs, grabbing my bag and phone. We waited outside on the porch until Mrs. Chandler and her husband arrived about 10 minutes later. They looked confused and concerned when they saw us. I told them everything, or at least the version that didn't make me sound insane. Mrs. Chandler's face went pale. She said slowly, "We don't use that closet. Not since my nephew stayed with us last year." Her husband gave her a sharp look, like she'd said too much. I didn't press. They paid me, thanked me, and I left. I never babysat for them again. I've looked for that house since. Ivy Hill Road doesn't show up on maps anymore. I've even driven out near where I think it was. Nothing. Just woods and a few newer developments. But I remember that house. I remember Noah. And I remember that closet door moving on its own. I haven't babysat since.